All right, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a project video. Been spent a lot of time on my garden stuff. So this one's about you want to build a barn door. So again, my big thing is I want to give you ideas for you to do it yourself. This is a project I did. Now we're running 4 years ago. At the end of the video, I'll show a few photos that I took during the project. Unfortunately, back then I wasn't videoing anything. But my big thing is again, all about giving you ideas. I'm not saying copy how I do it or how I did it. I'm just showing you that for someone that's not a woodworker, I just do projects because I come up with ideas and want to try them. So it's coming from someone, and again, I'm not by any means a woodworker. I like to work with my hands and I have ideas. I come up with them. I give it a shot. So here I built a barn door in our house. Reason I built this barn door is upstairs. This is our upstairs hallway, kids' rooms, AC, thermostat. Well, what I found is because we're on the landing upstairs where the vaulted ceilings and all the heat comes, it'll make that thing run and run and run. So what I did was I put this in so we could close it off, and then only this part of the house, they, in their rooms, have the AC running, or winter, the heat. Because again, the heater, all the heat will come up here. And if sometimes I'll have theirs set on dual action where it'll do AC or heat, man, the AC will come on in the winter and their rooms will get freezing cold. So I did that to shut this off. I don't always do that, but even then, if I don't have the AC on and this is open and the heater downstairs is running and the heat comes up into this part, well, theirs never comes on for the heat. So again, the rooms get freezing. So again, this kind of eliminates this whole area where all the heat rises into the main part of the house. And so I can shut it off. That's the reason for doing it. The video is about this door. Again, I just wanted to show you what I used, the things I came up with, and it worked. I have 2 teenagers. They abuse this door. So again, all I did, I took your common pine. You choose your width, 4 or 5 inch, just your common pine board at your local Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. And I took a tongue and groove boards. Again, nothing special. These are just the normal tongue and groove. You'll see it in the pictures at the end of the video where you'll see them individually. All I did, I took my tongue and groove boards, stained them, which I want to talk about that in a minute too. I stained them, stained these. I measured it all out. So I did a little quick mock-up. I pushed all these together. Let me rephrase. I actually built this outer frame first. So I built this common frame first because to the size of I wanted to make this width. I obviously wanted to make it wider than the hole so you don't close it and then there's a big gap. So make it a little further. Again, no special measurement. I just kind of eyeballed and said, all right, I'm going to make sure it overlaps the wall this much. So when I close it, it overlaps and there's not a big gap and you're looking through. Defeats the purpose. Measured that out. I measured my height, what I'm going to need. And then I built this outer frame first. Now, building this outer frame, what I did is I had one of those Craig's pocket hole. If you don't have one, get one. You use them all. I use it all the time. And so on the back of these, I pocket holed these all together, built this first. This basically became my template, and squared that, made sure that's all good. It's the great thing about that too, is when you cut these boards and use that Craig's pocket hole. Now both these are screwed to this board and that top and the bottom. So they're screwed into this outer board and on both sides. And then now that's my template of how I'm going to end up putting the size I'm going to make my tongue and groove. So what I ended up doing is, again, I did all the sanding on these. I did a light sand, and I stained them. Where I made the mistake on this is I did not put the pre-stain on here before I stained these. So as you look at this, this looks like I painted it. It's if I went up close and put a light on it, you'd actually see, you can see the wood grain, but because it's soaked up so much of that stain, it looks like I just painted a dark brown, which in reality, if I shine a light, you will see some of the wood. You can see the wood grain, but that was my mistake. So trying to help anybody from my mistake, don't do it. So again, build the frame. Again, you decide. It doesn't have to be this. You can make your little cross frame. You come up with that. This is just how I did it. You do it your way. I built this frame. Again, I ended up making this frame my template. So once I stained everything, what I did is I used some of that Loctite Power Grab glue. And I put it in every seam of all these boards. Put them together. You know, you're gonna have to, these boards you'll see in one of the pictures, they're not always right. So they'll be a little warped, but you can manipulate them and get them in those grooves. Once I got all those pushed together and tightened, I started from one end and worked my way through. Now, the great thing about that is, because I'm using this as a template, I put one down here. Again, now I'm square, I'm good and flat. I ran that board up the side of this, screwed that board into the end. So now this, as I move all these other boards into it, that's kind of my lock, and I push them all together. And then once I have all those, I use like in this case, I used a piece of wood and a hammer, but if you have like a rubber mallet or something, then you could just kind of bang them, get them all in there. Once those are all in, again, you're not going to be exact. Ideally, what ended up happening is my last tongue and groove was hanging out. That's okay, because as I knocked one in, I put a screw in the back. Boom, that one's in. Knocked this one into this one with the glue. Put a little screw, and I'll show you on the other side what I did. And that way, these boards, not only are they glued together, but now they're tied to here. And that's also holding it. The other thing you could do is you could knock all these in together, get them pretty pressed into each other. And because this last one's going to be hanging out, you could do some tie downs and just strap them. But you just want to make sure that's flat and something's on it so they don't just buckle out. And that's why what I did, I just knocked them in, screwed, knocked one in, got it tight, nice and tight, sent some screws from the back, and did all these in and got them all in. Now this one end was hanging out. So then all I had to do is I put a little piece of wood here. So, and then I basically ripped it down with my circular saw, and I just ripped the one end off. And that way, now I have it all squared. It's all matching this. Same thing with the top and bottom of this. I squared it on the one end, and then the other end, they're hanging a little bit. And I just ripped it with my circular saw. And now that, again, that's going to be the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect. These ends I did make perfect. What I ended up doing is using another one of these, and I clamped it to make it kind of my jig, so to speak. And that way, when I put my circular saw up against that and I set it I just ripped all the way down, and it was a perfect cut. And that way I have that, so I'm not getting all crazy with it. And other ways to do it, that's just what I did. I'm not saying again, I'm not a woodworker. It's just things that came up with me that worked. So again, regular old common board, pine at the store. I got some tongue and groove boards. Came up with a pattern that I liked. You can find all kinds of patterns, depending on how creative you want to get. Tied it all together. And then once I tied this all together, then I put a clear coat on everything, sealed it, a couple of clear coats, sealed it up. And then this is the finished product. Bought my hardware on Amazon. Surprise, surprise. And I bought my rail on Amazon. Now, because I did not have what some people will have is you'll have that wall going along your top. Because I didn't have that wall, I had to find a rail that I could bolt to the ceiling, so I bolted it to the rafters. Luckily, we're upstairs into the attic, so I could kind of pinpoint those rafters. Not to say you couldn't do that with a stud finder. So yeah, hooked them to the rafters into the ceiling. This one's adjustable. Plus, this one was pretty rugged. And again, teenagers, I wanted a pretty rugged one because they beat this thing up. The other thing I also did was, because I bolted the ceiling, I ended up putting, and I'll show from the other side, a board up here because I did have a gap here. So I'll show where I put a little board. Also, just again, for purposes, no one has to do this. I put one of these brush here, and I was just trying to seal that in so the heat didn't come in any way I could. Also, for noise, especially if you have little ones and they're up here playing and being creative. My kids weren't always teenagers. You know, a way to close them off. That's their own little space now. Well, because we have vaulted ceilings and this is open, man, when they're in here playing in this hall, it's so loud. So that was just, again, for our preference. Rail on Amazon. Now, let me show you some other things just about it. Again, common board, tongue and groove, hardware off Amazon, rail off Amazon. If you have a wall going all the way across, then you can do the wall mounted version. I just don't have that, so I had to do a ceiling mount. So let me grab the camera and I'm going to show a couple of different things here of just the back side. Because again, with this tongue and groove, what you're going to notice is when you pick it up, the back does not look the same. So if that's going to bother you, then this isn't for you. I'm just giving ideas. That was okay for me. So let me grab the camera and move, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, here's the back side of the door. This is what I was talking about as far as just how the back side of the tongue and groove looks. It's more just a multi-little individual. You'll see it when you go in the store. What I wanted to show you is how, let's see if I can get it in here. Yeah, so you'll see all the little screws that I put in through the back individually into each board just to lock it in place as I was doing that. You can now see the brown a little more too. You can kind of see a little more of the wood grain on this side. So yeah, and then this side I did a flat panel, so when it goes open, you're not going to bang into the wall, and that opens all the way. Now with this too, is you'll see up here is also, there is where I put that board, just because I had a gap on the top of that door. You can kind of see the angle from the gap here. If it's up high, it goes away. But you'll see this board that I put right here just to block the rail, just make it look a little cleaner, same color. And then that way when it closes, also I put a little rubber piece right here, that's not so it won't bang against the wall. That's just more to seal it, to seal it up a little tighter. You can hear the noise difference. It is up on the top of this. Well, I can't really see it, but those two screws right there, that's actually a little stopper that you can adjust. And that stopper keeps the door from just banging into a wall. I mean, you can see it's worked. There's no big bangs or anything in this wall other than a dirty wall from teenagers. So yeah, that again, rail, Amazon. A little closer look to the handle that I chose. You can see now a little bit of the wood grain, but again, just I wanted to give people an idea what they can do. Be creative, do your own thing on building your own barn door in your house. Actually, surprisingly, it was not that difficult. Again, coming from someone, I'm no woodworker. Use your creativity. If you want to take it and take a challenge and go for it, do it. That's what I say. I mean, again, that's why I do videos like this, just to show other people you can do it. You don't have to be some professional. Give it a shot. Not saying you won't have some trial and error. It happens. But if you're willing to give it a shot and use your creativity, make it happen. Once again, appreciate it. Thanks for watching. If you find anything out of this that works for you, I appreciate a thumbs up. And more to come. Till next time, have a great day.